Hello, welcome. We would be discussing what is addiction today. American Psychological Association defines addiction as a state of psychological or physical dependence, or both, on the use of alcohol or other drugs. But that could also be to some form of behavior or the other. But let's break it down. Addiction is, as it says, it's a form of dependence on something. So I've come to see it as a coping mechanism for some form of intense discomfort. Could be to pain, could be to trauma, could be to some stress, it could be to one form of issue or the other. Ask any addict excuse me, what does their behavior or their substance of addiction do for them? Some common responses you get will be it helps them cope with stress, it helps them sleep, it gives them that confidence boost to socialize, it helps them forget painful memories, it helps them cope with physical pains, and on like that. If there was no benefit attached to addictions, really, there wouldn't be a lot of people doing it. So there's some form of benefit. But the downside is when drugs or behaviors are used to cope, they are maladaptive. They ultimately erode the body's internal coping mechanism. Scientifically, we'll say it messes up the body's internal reward system, the dopamine system of the brain, the one that makes you feel good, makes you feel excited about achieving basic feats in life. You've just had a really good meal and you feel wonderfully good about it. It's because you've had a rush of dopamine, you've achieved some success, you feel really good about it. It's because you've had some rush of dopamine. So now these drugs and this behavior, what it does is it messes up those normal physiological experiences and psychological feelings, if I can use that word. And the body comes to see the drug and the behavior as a normal part of life, a normal part of that individual's existence, such that when it is absent, there is intense withdrawal symptoms, from physical pains to restlessness to inability to sleep to irritability, inability to eat. I mean, for those who smoke some drugs, if they don't smoke, they can't eat. Nature did not design, or God did not design any of us to need drugs to be able to have an appetite to eat. That's what I mean by it comes to eventually mess up the internal workings of the body. Then the other downside is that the issue for which substances and some behaviors are used to cope with would at best only cope. It will not solve the issues. It will not heal the childhood trauma. It will not take away the stress. It will not take away the grief. It will not take away the anxiety or the depression. And it will just palliate the physical pains. So it's just a maladaptive, a coping mechanism that doesn't really do much. It will do more damages than benefit, even though in the interim it feels like it's beneficial. Now, no addict starts using drug with the intention of getting addicted. It usually, let's just cope with this thing. Let me get through this phase. Let me get through this pain. Let me just be able to sleep today. Let this restlessness and this nervousness just leave me for a while. So, but it ends up as a slow fade. It starts with a puff, then to wrapping a blunt, to finishing a blunt, and then several blunts a day, till the entirety of such an individual's existence revolves around procuring drugs or other substances, using the substances, feeling high, and in some cases just feeling normal. Not like there will be any kind of high, just feeling normal in order not to experience withdrawal symptoms. And it just goes on and on like that. So then what's the take home to someone who has one form of behavioral or substance addiction or the other? I would invite you to have an intentional self-reflection on What benefits does the drug or the behavior serve you? What do you gain from it when you use it? That way, you're better able to know what you are using it to fix. If you know what it is you're using this substance or this drug to fix, that should be enough motivation to find a permanent or a lasting cure, a lasting solution to things that can be solved. And the ones that can be solved is also enough motivation to see how you can come to accept some shortcomings that we cannot change in life. So, excuse me, that we cannot change in life. I see addiction as someone who has a form of fracture, who is managing with crutches, and rather than go for the reparative surgery or reparative casting. Surgeries are painful, they are costly. Castings are kind of restricting until the bone sets. The process of addiction recovery feels the same way. If it costs money to get into addiction, it will also cost money to get out of it. If addiction has caused so much pain, the process of coming out of it would also be a bit challenging, painful, coping with the withdrawals, and learning to do life without any form of chemical backup. So then, regardless of how bad it is, you can heal from the addiction. There's no addiction that is not salvageable. There's no human being that is not salvageable. If God has given you the opportunity to be alive today to see this video, then really is not done with you. So it's another encouragement, another motivation for whoever this would get to minister to check themselves and see what needs to be fixed, and of course take the intentional step of seeking out a counselor, a psychotherapist, or even frankly getting admitted into rehab to begin the processes of recovery. So the same person with fracture who is willing to undergo the pains of reparative surgery or casting would one day drop the crutch, could one day win an Olympic if he wants to go that far. The same applies to the addict. That is not the definition of who you are. It's just a crutch that you are using to cope with life, which has not served you, which hasn't served, and now there's something better you can do to cope with the same challenges. And of course, some challenges can even be healed, but it would involve taking that intentional step of saying, one, I'm done with it, two, now I want to seek help. So I invite you, give yourself another chance. The best days of your life are right ahead of you. They are not behind you, and you can begin today. So I wish you wholeness, I wish you health, wealth, well-being, and I wish you wonderful health. So till we see next time, please stay sober. Bye.